Let's learn about fundraising for the Reluctant Fundraiser with Cindy Wagman. Hello, and welcome to Driven's Fundraising Superheroes podcast. I am your host, Sabrina Shishente. And if you're not familiar with our team at Driven, we are innovators in nonprofit technology looking to help you unlock your true fundraising potential. You can visit trustdriven.com to learn more about how we can help with your donor, volunteer, and member management. So how do you fundraise when you don't see yourself as a fundraiser? It's tricky, right? Many organizations are struggling with fundraising because of this. Cindy Wagman is the president and founder of The Good Partnership, a value-driven, social justice-informed consultancy that is working to unlock the potential of small nonprofits through fundraising. She is the host of the Small Nonprofit Podcast, Canada's #1 podcast for charities, and author of Raise It, the Reluctant Fundraiser's Guide to Raising Money Without Selling Your Soul. I am so happy to have Cindy on the show to talk about reluctant fundraising and her new book, Raise It. So thank you, Cindy, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So your new book, Raise It, focuses on teaching non-fundraisers how to fundraise. So why did you decide to focus on this specific market?
I love that question because I could talk for days about how we teach fundraising as a sector, and usually it's through professional associations or, things that we're talking to people who are chosen fundraisers, professional fundraisers. But if you look at the makeup of the charitable sector in Canada, the United States, pretty much anywhere, most organizations don't have fundraising shops in-house. They don't have dedicated fundraisers. And the people who are responsible for fundraising don't want to do it. And so that is really where I feel like as a sector, we've kind of failed or sort of let people down in terms of those, in my experience, those small organizations are grassroots, are doing really important work, very often social justice based. And for the good of all of us, we need them to know how to fundraise well. And we don't right now. So that's why I chose to focus on this sort of reluctant group of fundraisers who would really rather do anything but fundraise, but they do it because their organization really requires it of them.
Yeah, that's definitely what resonated with me when I was reading the book and when I was listening to your excerpt on your podcast, was that I am definitely one of those people. It terrifies me to go up to somebody and ask for money. So I'm really excited to share with our listeners some tips because I know that this is definitely a common struggle. There's a lot of anxiety that comes with fundraising.
Yeah. And part of that is also what we think of as fundraising, which is actually usually wrong. So and I don't want to tell you that you're wrong, but there's sort of these stereotypes or these narratives of what we think of as fundraising. There's stories in our minds of what we picture when we think about fundraising, which, as you brought up, we think of like standing in front of someone and asking for a lot of money. And that is a small fraction of fundraising that your organization may or may not do. We also often think of corporate asks, pitching, which again, actually is not as big or common as other types of fundraising. So we have a lot of false narratives in our brains around fundraising that prevent us from actually doing the work to learn what good fundraising actually looks like for small organizations, which most people actually are. They're naturally talented at it because it's relationship building, and even whether we're introverted, extroverted, or neurodivergent or neurotypical, like all of us have some capacity to connect with other people or in our way. And most of all, good fundraising is authenticity. So we all have the capacity to do it, but maybe I'll blame our sector or blame those professional associations or groups that have put up these sort of walls around like we have to do it this way, or, you have to be a professional, you have to get certified. And I say this, like, I've spoken at professional associations. I'm a certified fundraising executive. I have all that, but I've seen how it can create a bit of a barrier between the people who do this every day or the people who do this off the side of their desk.
Yeah, it almost makes it seem bigger than it actually is. And I guess that's kind of where the anxiety comes in, because you're so hyped up on, and you mentioned this in your book, I need the perfect pitch. I need a really strong marketing plan. I need all these things. And at the end of the day, you just got to do it. Like, it's kind of, you just got to take that chance.
Yeah, but it's hard. Like, and this is also a bit of a bone to pick with how we teach fundraising, is like, yes, just do it. And I've been around board tables and I was just like, just sell 5 tickets to our event, or just pull out like your LinkedIn profile and let's look at who you know. The acts are not hard. It's not complicated and it's not hard to do. In fact, it's surprisingly simple, but our brains are preventing us from taking that action. And this is not just true of fundraising. This is how our brains work in the world. We often know what the good things are to do, or how, good decisions, but that doesn't mean we do them. We make bad decisions all the time. And we have bad behavior. I don't want to call behavior bad, but unhealthy behavior, or behavior that isn't aligned with our goals. And we still do it. And that's because our brains kind of operate on autopilot. And unless we change the autopilot, those simple tasks will always feel insurmountable.
It is definitely a mental game, and you have to start shifting that mindset. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy. People who tell themselves are not good fundraisers are not going to be good fundraisers. But how do you begin to tackle that mindset shift? How do we start identifying those negative triggers?
Yeah. So the first thing is to just start to bring awareness to how you feel and what your beliefs are around fundraising. So a lot of those, so what happens in our brain is the more we experience something or repeat something, we create these little neural pathways. They're shortcuts that make decisions really, really quickly. There's a bunch of patterns to what kinds of shortcuts those make. So, there's like, we have negativity bias, where we overemphasize negative things, confirmation bias, like there's all these biases where we might have heard of. They're also called heuristics. So there's patterns to this, but fundamentally the idea is, if we are exposed to something over and over and over again, our brain makes that a shortcut. So it requires less mental energy to just go through the world and make all these little decisions. And so the first thing is, we have to become aware of what those shortcuts are. And the best way to do that is to reflect, how does that make me feel? What are my underlying beliefs in this situation? So it could be like around doing a face-to-face ask, right? So it could be, what am I worried about? I'm worried about rejection. Maybe I'm worried about the fact that donor maybe doesn't actually care about this work, or they're going to feel coerced into giving. We have to, and so much of it is very personal reflection, because while I see a lot of trends, these are developed through our own life experiences, right? It could be our experiences growing up and how we talk about or don't talk about money in the home, or value of things, or it could be things around the value of nonprofit work, that I've seen a lot of people think that we shouldn't be paid a lot because this is charitable work, and that's just part of the. So for each of us, we actually have to start to think about, okay, what's this fundraising situation that I'm coming up against? And let's take a minute to just pause and maybe even write down, like, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What are my fundamental beliefs that underlie that? So do I believe that people fundamentally don't want to give to charity? Do I believe that this work is less than, or not professional enough? There's so many things that come up for people. But fundamentally, we have to do a little bit of self-reflection. And I guarantee you that all of us, even professional fundraisers, have some stories that we are telling ourselves that keep us stuck in around fundraising or at any other behavior. So we need to bring awareness to that. And then we can start to look at activities to change those beliefs, which also happens through repetition and creating new shortcuts in our brains aligned with what we want it to be.
Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts, because there's that mindset part, and then there's the actual presenting in front of your donor. So how do you display a passion for your cause? How do you get really excited about pitching when you're like super nervous, or you just really,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the first thing is you're not pitching.